Marcus Bennett never expected his Monday morning to begin with an alien's hand clamped over his mouth. The shimmering, silver-skinned creature hovering above his bed was Nyxis, his otherworldly housekeeper of 6 months. Her crystalline eyes pulsed with an urgent blue light he'd never seen before. "Please remain silent, Marcus," she whispered, her voice carrying the familiar melodic undertone that made human speech sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "There are unfamiliar energy signatures in the vicinity of your dwelling." Marcus nodded slowly, and Nyxis removed her hand. In the pre-dawn darkness, her bioluminescent markings cast subtle patterns across the bedroom walls. He'd grown used to her unusual appearance over the months, but something about her demeanor today sent chills down his spine. "What kind of energy signatures?" he whispered, carefully sitting up. As a software engineer who worked remotely, he'd grown accustomed to unusual schedules, but 3:47 a.m. was pushing it. Nyxis's secondary sensory appendages, what Marcus liked to call her antenna fins, quivered as she processed the information. They matched the resonance patterns of Drekian phase shifters, technology that should not exist on this planet. Marcus rubbed his eyes, trying to process this information. When he'd agreed to participate in the Galactic Integration Program 6 months ago, hosting an alien housekeeper seemed like an exciting way to be part of humanity's first steps into the broader cosmic community. The program was supposed to be simple: provide living space for an alien who would learn about human culture while helping with household tasks. Nobody mentioned anything about dangerous technology or pre-dawn warnings. "I need you to trust me," Nyxis continued, her movements becoming more precise and controlled. A tell Marcus had learned meant she was worried. "We must relocate immediately. Pack only what you cannot replace." Wait, Marcus held up his hands. "You're telling me we need to run away because of some energy readings? Couldn't it be another alien visitor? The integration program has been expanding." Nyxis's outer membrane flickered, her species equivalent of a head shake. The Drekian Empire was banned from Earth sector after the Mars incident of 2147. Their presence here violates 17 intergalactic treaties. Marcus felt his throat go dry. The Mars incident, that was just a solar flare that damaged the colony's communications, right? That's what the news said. "Your media was given a convenient explanation," Nyxis replied, already moving through his room with efficient purpose, gathering his important documents and electronics. "The truth is considerably more complex. The Drekians attempted to establish a covert base on Mars, which would have given them a staging ground to slowly infiltrate Earth. They were detected and expelled, but not before they caused significant damage to the human colony there." Marcus swung his legs out of bed, his mind racing. "Why are you telling me this now, and why were you really sent here?" Nyxis paused her gathering, her crystalline eyes fixing on him with an intensity that made him shiver. "Because, Marcus Bennett, you have been flagged in their systems. Your work on quantum encryption algorithms, while primitive by galactic standards, has drawn their attention. They believe you may be close to discovering principles that could interfere with their phase-shifting technology." Marcus laughed nervously. "My work? I'm just trying to develop better security for cloud storage. I'm not even close to anything that advanced." "You underestimate yourself," Nyxis replied, her voice softening. "Your latest algorithm has patterns that mirror certain universal constants. You may not realize their significance, but the Drekians do. That is why I was assigned to you specifically. My role as housekeeper was a cover. I am actually a member of the Galactic Security Council's protective division." The sound of a distant helicopter broke the pre-dawn silence, but something about its rhythm seemed off. Nyxis's markings pulsed rapidly. "They're here," she announced, her form shifting as previously hidden equipment emerged from what Marcus had thought was just decorative bioluminescence. "We have approximately 3 minutes before they breach the building's perimeter. Do you trust me?" Marcus looked at the alien he'd shared his home with for the past 6 months. He remembered how she'd learned to make perfect coffee just the way he liked it, how she'd listened to his rambling explanations about coding problems, how she'd shared stories about distant worlds while they watched sunset from his balcony. Strange as it seemed, he did trust her. Yes, he said, standing up and grabbing his laptop bag. I trust you, but you're explaining everything once we're safe. Nyxus's features arranged themselves into what he recognized as her version of a smile. Agreed. Now, hold still. She pressed a small crystal against his forearm, and the world around them began to shimmer. The last thing Marcus saw before reality shifted was a bright flash of light breaking through his window, accompanied by the sound of his front door being broken down. Then everything dissolved into a cascade of crystalline light, and his life as he knew it ended, or perhaps, he would later realize, it truly began. The crystalline light faded, and Marcus found himself standing in what appeared to be the interior of a massive geode. Iridescent walls curved overhead, their surfaces rippling with patterns of light that seemed to respond to his movements. His stomach lurched as his body adjusted to the sudden translocation. Welcome to the prismatic sanctuary, Nyxus announced, her form shifting as her protective equipment retracted. This is one of our emergency safe houses, hidden within a pocket dimension adjacent to Earth's reality. Marcus steadied himself against a crystalline column, trying to process the radical shift in his surroundings. Pocket dimension, like in science fiction. Your fiction often springs from glimpses of truth, Nyxus replied, moving to what appeared to be a control console made of flowing light. Humanity has been unconsciously detecting advanced physical principles for centuries, interpreting them through the lens of imagination. The console responded to her touch, projecting a holographic display that showed their former location. Marcus watched in horror as shadowy figures moved through his apartment, their forms seeming to flicker in and out of existence. Drekian phase commandos, Nyxus explained, her voice hardening. They can shift partially out of phase with normal matter passing through solid objects. It makes them extremely dangerous infiltrators. Why are they after my work? Marcus asked, pulling out his laptop. I mean, if they're so advanced, what could they possibly want with my encryption algorithms? Nyxus's markings pulsed thoughtfully. Your work has inadvertently tapped into what we call resonant mathematics, equations that describe the fundamental harmony of reality itself. The Drekians use a crude version of these principles in their phase-shifting technology. But your algorithms, while simpler, are more elegant. They fear you might develop something that could neutralize their advantage. Marcus opened his laptop, pulling up his research files. But I was just trying to create better data security. I never meant to discover anything like that. Often the most significant discoveries come from unexpected directions, Nyxus said, moving closer to examine his screen. Your human perspective allowed you to approach the problem differently than any galactic civilization would have. That's partly why the integration program exists, to foster such unique insights. The holographic display suddenly flashed red, and Nyxus's markings pulsed rapidly. They're attempting to trace our quantum signature. We should be safe here, but... She paused, her crystalline eyes fixing on Marcus with an intensity that made him nervous. There's something else you need to know, she continued. The integration program isn't just about cultural exchange. We've been monitoring humanity's technological development, watching for signs that you're ready for full galactic integration. Your work, Marcus, could be the catalyst that proves Earth's readiness. Marcus felt the weight of this revelation settling onto his shoulders. No pressure or anything, he muttered, scrolling through his code. So what happens now? Now, Nyxus said, her form shifting as she activated several controls. We prepare for what comes next. The Drekians won't stop hunting you, and we can't hide in this sanctuary forever. We need to complete your work before they find a way to silence you. The walls of the sanctuary shifted, revealing what appeared to be an advanced research laboratory. Holographic displays materialized around them, showing mathematical formulae that made Marcus's head spin. I'm going to show you what your algorithms look like when viewed through the lens of galactic science, Nyxus explained. But first, you need to understand the true nature of the conflict we're facing. She waved her hand, and the holograms coalesced into a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Points of light indicated various civilizations, with lines of force showing political relationships and power dynamics. The Drekians believe in technological supremacy above all else, she explained. They see other races as resources to be exploited or obstacles to be removed. Earth's isolation has protected you so far, but they've been watching, waiting for signs that humanity might become a threat to their dominance. And my work could be that sign? Marcus asked, feeling increasingly overwhelmed. Yes, Nyxis confirmed. But it's more than that. Your algorithms suggest a path to harmonious integration of different technological paradigms. If fully developed, they could revolutionize galactic society, breaking down the artificial barriers between civilizations. The Drekians want to prevent that future. Marcus sat down on a crystalline formation that obligingly shaped itself into a comfortable chair. So no pressure. I just have to complete revolutionary research while being hunted by phase-shifting alien commandos, and the future of Earth's relationship with the galaxy hangs in the balance. Nyxis's features arranged themselves into what he now recognized as her equivalent of a sympathetic smile. If it helps, you won't be doing it alone. There's a reason I was assigned to you specifically. She raised her hand, and her silver skin seemed to flow like liquid metal, revealing complex patterns of mathematical equations embedded in her very being. I am what my people call a living equation, and being engineered to understand and manipulate the mathematical principles that underlie reality. Together, we might be able to complete your work before the Drekians find us. A distant alarm sounded, and Nyxis's markings pulsed with concern. Which needs to be soon. They're more persistent than I expected. She extended her hand to Marcus. Are you ready to begin? Marcus looked at his laptop, then at the alien who had protected him, and was now offering to help him change the galaxy. He took a deep breath and nodded. Ready? Let's show these Drekians what human ingenuity and alien mathematics can do together. The sanctuary's walls pulsed with light as they began their work, racing against time to unlock the secrets hidden within Marcus's algorithms. While somewhere in the space between dimensions, their hunters drew ever closer. Time behaved strangely in the prismatic sanctuary. Marcus had lost track of how long he and Nyxis had been working on integrating his encryption algorithms with galactic mathematical principles. His laptop screen glowed with complex equations, while holographic projections danced around them, showing the real-time effects of their calculations on local space-time. There's something we're missing, Marcus muttered, running his hands through his disheveled hair. He'd barely slept, sustained by some kind of energizing field Nyxis had activated in their work area. The phase shift equations keep destabilizing at the quantum level. Nyxis's crystalline eyes pulsed thoughtfully as she examined the latest simulation results. Her silver skin rippled with mathematical patterns that shifted in response to their work. Perhaps we're approaching this from the wrong perspective. Your original algorithm wasn't intended to manipulate space-time. It was designed to protect information. Marcus straightened in his chair, a new idea forming. Wait, what if we're not trying to stop their phase shifting directly? What if we treat reality itself as encrypted data? Before Nyxis could respond, the sanctuary's warning system flared to life. The crystalline walls pulsed with urgent red patterns, and multiple holographic displays materialized showing different sectors of local space-time. They've found us, Nyxis announced, her form shifting as her defensive systems activated. The Drekians have developed a way to detect the sanctuary's dimensional signature. The walls of their safe haven shuddered as something massive pressed against the fabric of reality itself. Marcus quickly saved his work and backed up the files to multiple quantum-encrypted drives Nyxis had provided. How is this possible? He asked, watching as cracks began to appear in the crystalline surfaces around them. You said this place was completely hidden. They're using a crude but effective method, Nyxis replied, her voice tight with concentration as she worked to reinforce the sanctuary's defenses. They're systematically destroying portions of space-time, forcing our pocket dimension to either reveal itself or be torn apart. Marcus felt his blood run cold. They're willing to risk that kind of damage just to stop us. The Drekians believe their technological supremacy gives them the right to do anything necessary to maintain their position. Nyxis said. Her markings pulsed with a pattern he'd never seen before. Was that fear? We need to evacuate, but first. She moved to the central console, her hands flying over the controls. The laboratory equipment began to fold in on itself, converting into pure energy that was absorbed into her body. I'm integrating our research into my living equation matrix. They can't be allowed to capture any of this. Another impact rocked the sanctuary, and this time Marcus could see actual tears in reality forming along the walls, glimpses of something that hurt his eyes to look at, a void that shouldn't exist. Marcus, Nyxis said urgently, I need you to understand something. What we've discovered here goes beyond just counteracting their phase shift technology. Your approach to encryption, combined with living equation principles, suggests a way to fundamentally rewrite the rules of how different realities interact, if the Drekians obtain this knowledge. They could do more than just phase through walls, Marcus finished, understanding dawning. They could rewrite reality itself. The sanctuary shuddered again, and sections of the crystalline walls began to disintegrate. Through the growing gaps, Marcus caught glimpses of dark figures moving in impossible ways, their forms twisting through dimensions that shouldn't exist. We need to split up, Nyxis announced, her voice heavy with resolve. I'll create a diversion, try to draw them away. You need to get to the secondary evacuation point. Remember the emergency protocols we discussed. Marcus nodded, clutching his laptop bag. The quantum beacon. If I activate it, it'll alert the Galactic Security Council. Use it only as a last resort, Nyxis warned. The beacon will attract the attention of every advanced species in this sector of space. Earth isn't ready for that kind of exposure yet. Another blast rocked the sanctuary, and this time a section of the wall completely collapsed. Through the breach stepped 3 Drekian commandos, their bodies seeming to exist in multiple places at once, leaving trailing afterimages as they moved. Their armor was a void-black material that seemed to absorb light, and their helmets were featureless except for swirling patterns that made Marcus's head hurt to look at. Nyxis pushed Marcus behind her, her form shifting into something more combat-oriented. Her silver skin hardened into crystalline plates, and what had been decorative markings reformed into what were clearly weapon systems. Remember, she said quickly, everything we've worked on is stored in my matrix now. If anything happens to me, the encryption key is in your original algorithm. You'll know what to look for. She paused, then added softly, It has been an honor to learn from you, Marcus Bennett. Before he could respond, Nyxis launched herself at the Drekian commandos, her form blurring as she engaged them in combat that seemed to take place in multiple dimensions at once. Marcus caught glimpses of impossible movements, weapons that fired mathematics itself, and reality twisting in ways that threatened his sanity. Taking advantage of the chaos, he slipped through a different breach in the sanctuary's walls, finding himself in a crystalline corridor that seemed to branch in non-Euclidean ways. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of battle growing more intense. As he ran, following the escape route they'd planned, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a chase now. Something fundamental had changed, in the equations, in the universe, in himself. And somewhere in his original encryption algorithm lay the key to understanding it all. He just hoped he'd live long enough to figure it out. The quantum beacon's signal rippled through multiple dimensions, transforming the collapsing sanctuary into a nexus point where countless realities intersected. Marcus found himself floating in a space that defied description, surrounded by manifestations of advanced civilizations responding to the beacon's call. They appeared as everything from crystalline geometries to patterns of pure energy to forms that his human mind could only interpret as abstract concepts given shape. Among them, he recognized Nyxis's distinctive silver form, damaged but intact, her living equation matrix still pulsing with their combined research. The Galactic Security Council acknowledges this emergency signal, announced a voice that seemed to speak directly into his understanding rather than his ears. We detect multiple violations of reality preservation protocols. The space around them stabilized as higher dimensional beings exerted their influence. The remaining Drekian forces, caught in the intersection of so many powerful entities, found their phase-shifting technology suddenly neutralized. Their forms solidified into more conventional matter, trapped in normal space-time. Nyxis moved to Marcus's side, her form gradually repairing itself. "You actually did it," she said, her voice carrying a mix of pride and amazement. "You forced the conversation into the open." "Indeed," another voice agreed, this one belonging to a being that appeared as a cascade of mathematical symbols. "The human's actions have created an unprecedented situation. The encryption algorithms he developed, combined with living equation principles, suggest a new framework for interreality communications." Marcus watched in awe as various entities began examining the mathematical patterns still visible in the fragments of the sanctuary's walls. His original encryption work had been meant to protect data, but somehow it had evolved into something far more profound, a new way of describing how different forms of existence could interact. "The Drekians sought to dominate reality," Nyxis explained to the assembled beings. "But Marcus showed there's another way. His algorithms demonstrate that the universe's laws aren't constraints to be broken, but protocols for meaningful interaction." "A protocol for reality itself," one of the energy beings mused. "Not to override universal constants, but to establish standardized methods of communication between different states of existence." The remnants of the Drekian forces were contained within fields of pure mathematics, their technology systematically deconstructed by the advanced beings. Marcus noticed that rather than destroying the phase-shifting devices, the council members were studying them, perhaps seeing how they could be adapted to work within the new paradigm his algorithms suggested. "Marcus Bennett," the council's primary voice addressed him directly, "your work has inadvertently proposed a solution to one of the greatest challenges in our galactic community: how to allow different forms of existence to interact without compromising the fundamental stability of space-time." "I just wanted to keep data safe," Marcus said, still struggling to process the scale of what was happening. "I never imagined." "That is precisely why it worked," Nyxis interjected. "You approached the problem without preconceptions about what should be possible. You created a system that respects the integrity of what it protects while allowing controlled, authorized interactions." The council beings conferred in ways that transcended normal perception. When they spoke again, their decision resonated through multiple dimensions. "We propose the establishment of a new division within the Galactic Security Council, the Reality Integration Protocol Department. Its purpose will be to develop and implement standardized methods for cross-reality interaction based on the principles demonstrated here." Marcus felt Nyxis's hand on his shoulder. "They're offering us a chance to develop this properly," she said. "Not as a weapon or a tool for dominance, but as a framework for cooperation between different forms of existence." Looking around at the assembled beings, Marcus saw not just advanced aliens, but different approaches to existence itself. Some were energy, some were mathematics, some were concepts his human mind couldn't fully grasp. Yet here they were, all brought together by the idea that reality wasn't something to be conquered, but a conversation to be had. "I accept," he said firmly. "But on one condition, Earth needs to be part of this conversation. Not just as a subject of study, but as an active participant. Humanity might be young by galactic standards, but we've got a unique perspective to offer." The Council's response carried what felt like approval. "Agreed. The integration protocol will serve as a bridge, allowing humanity to join the galactic community gradually, in ways that won't overwhelm your civilization's development." As the higher dimensional beings began establishing new parameters for reality interaction, Marcus turned to Nyxis. "So, not just a housekeeper anymore." Her crystalline eyes sparkled with what he now recognized as amusement. "I was never just a housekeeper, Marcus. But I did learn something valuable from that role. Sometimes the most important breakthroughs come from simply keeping things in their proper order." Together, they watched as the council beings began implementing the first stages of the reality integration protocol. The mathematics of Marcus's encryption algorithm, combined with Nyxis's living equation principles, spread through space-time like ripples in a cosmic pond, establishing new patterns of order and communication. Humanity's first steps into a larger universe hadn't come through force or technological supremacy, but through finding a way to make different versions of reality talk to each other. As Marcus prepared to help implement this new paradigm, he couldn't help but smile at the irony. Sometimes the best way to change the universe was to focus on keeping things safely in their proper place, just like a certain alien housekeeper had taught him.